Back here, thank you, Mink. As we go through the afternoon, let's get a couple calls in. We got a lot to do today. We got Schrager coming up, Stanton coming up, Billick. Hey, Mons, get Brown on. See if let's do something on the Knicks too. You know, let me do a minute or two on the Knicks with him tonight. See if he can pop him up in the show. Try, see if he can fit him in. See if we can, because I'm just thinking about that. Let's because they look so bad right now, and the Nets have actually looked pretty good. So let's and let's see what he thinks about what's going on with the Knicks right now. Joe in Massapequa, what's up, Joe?
Hey, Mike. Good afternoon.
What's happening?
On the Giants, if I may, two questions, please. After this horrific season is over, is Reese gone because he has done a terrible job addressing?
I don't know yet. I don't know yet, and I think I've made this point.
One more point.
They have 9 games left. They haven't even played the halfway point of this season. It'll depend on how they play. Their December schedule, they have their biggest 3 rivals coming into their building in December. If they don't compete and make those games interesting, where their stadium has got fans in it who care about the games, who are excited that the Giants are playing better and are, competing in those games and can play spoiler.
I think he'll be gone.
If they don't, he'll fire the whole lot of them. So they will have to finish this season well. If the idea they finish at 3-13 or 2-14, you'll have a new coach, you'll have a new general manager.
And when they get the first few picks in the draft, Mike, they have to go quarterback, right?
Well, listen, they have too much talent to finish in the top 2 or 3 in the draft. First of all, they're not going to be ahead of Cleveland and San Francisco.
Right.
So, and both of them are going to take quarterbacks. So, the idea that, listen, if they're in a position to take a quarterback, if they're in a top 5 spot in the draft, they should absolutely try and get a quarterback. Absolutely. There are quarterbacks in this draft. And the people who are looking at what guys like Donald and Rosen are doing in the regular season and think that equates to whether they will be in the draft and be big prospects don't know anything about how this process works. Because when the season's over, nothing they did in that season impacts them. They go to the combine. If they want to come out, they go through the whole process. They have their pro day, and that's where they will show what they can do. They'll meet with everybody, and you can come up the board out of nowhere. No one even thought Trubisky would be a first-round pick last year, and he wound up going second in the draft. So the idea that you can say, oh, Donald's having a bad year this year, that means he's not going to be at the top of the draft. Nonsense. First of all, you don't know if he's going to come out or not, but if he does, he could be the first player picked off a bad year. Makes no difference. That won't affect it will not affect his status. How he plays and how the team plays this season will not affect his status by the time he comes out. How he does after, how he does when he is in front of them, how he does if he goes to the combine, how he does on his pro day, that will be the deciding factor on when he gets drafted. Gary in White Plains, what's up, Gary?
Hey, Mike, what's up? Thanks for taking my call. I just want to talk about this game last night. I really didn't want to watch it, but I figured I'd throw it on 5 minutes before it kicked off. And, it was like they're looking around the crowd, like no one's in the stands, first off. And then the first play of the game is a flag, full start. It's like the NFL wonders why their ratings are tanking, It's amazing.
Well, that was a matchup between 2 teams that are the 31st and 32nd ranked offenses in the sport. One with a backup quarterback. Baltimore's been playing hideously badly. Miami has no attractiveness, and that's the game you got. I can't use that game as a barometer to where the NFL is right now. Now, when you put that kind of game on a Thursday night, that's your problem. That's the oversaturation part. If you're going to put a Thursday night game out there, it's got to have some bite to it. Otherwise, people aren't going to watch it. That's all there is to it. That game had nothing that was interesting about it. And it turned out to be a terrible game as it is. But, the fact is, going in, that game had no appeal. 0. Val in New Jersey. What's up, Val?
Yeah, Mike, I'm calling because, Mike, my question to you is, I'm going to qualify this right off the bat. I'm a Mets fan,
right,
and I really just kind of want to defend them because...
Defend who?
A lot of flack, especially when the Mets unceremoniously fired Willie Also, there was both their fault.
Well, wait a second. Wait a second. You're a Met fan who wants to talk about Willie Randolph?
Yeah. Here's what I wanted to say. It's the Mets that gave Willie an opportunity. And how come?
Well, who's talking? Why are we talking about Willie Randolph?
Well, I was saying, how come he's not like a candidate or something?
Because we already told you that the Yankees wanted a guy who is steeped in the new way of baseball. That was the problem with Girardi and the Yankees. They are not going to go for what they think is an old school manager. They're not going to do that. And they think Willie might not feel that way, but Willie is going to be looked at as a guy who is an old school manager. He's not going to be looked at as a guy who is going to embrace the idea of being told what lineup to make.
All right,
and that's where we are these days now. The power lies when the general managers, they have these complete units where they do analytics, and they want that stuff followed to the T. And they want the lineup made a certain way. They want guys played that way. They want the roster done that way. They want their philosophy followed, and they want a guy who's going to be very happy to carry out what they want done. And if you're not that guy, you're not going to be their manager.
No, Mike, I understand that. You answered my question. It's just that I just think that the Yankees, really never, deep in their heart, would ever have considered Willie at any time during his career.
But you know what? Why did the Yankees have to consider Willie Randolph? Why? The Yankees have 100 ex-stars. Why did they have to consider Willie Randolph?
Well, I don't know, because he's a homegrown guy.
Again, but why? Why? I can name 50 other guys. Why does it have to be Willie Randolph?
Well, I'm just, like I said, I'm just defending. I'm just trying to defend the Mets, because I think.
Well, listen, the Mets chose him to be. But the Mets chose him to be their manager. So what? What does that have to do with the Yankees? Wasn't the Yankees' fault?
I just think deep down that's what Willie wanted.
Yeah, but it does. Yeah, but you know what? Just because you want to be the Yankee manager doesn't mean you're going to be the Yankee manager. And the Yankees never. So the Yankees are not at fault because they don't think somebody should be their manager. And because the Mets once considered him their manager doesn't mean the Yankees have to say, "Oh, wait a second, he's a Yankee. Now we have to pick him as our manager." No, they don't. Mets chose him and then unceremoniously fired him. That was up to them. But it has nothing to do with the Yankees. It's not the Yankees' fault. Wilson in Roxbury. What's up, Wilson?
Hey, Mikey. How are you?
Good. What's up?
Hey, Mikey, listen. One comment, and I want to add. First thing, I don't know about this Giants fans, but Eli Manning has earned the right to write down on a piece of paper to what date he wants to be the starting quarterback of the Giants. I don't know where this break is.
I don't think anybody gets to do that, though. Listen, but they have to run. You don't get to dictate terms, even as a player, no matter what you accomplish.
No,
but you do. But you do have to tell them what the plan is, and the Giants have to live with the consequences. If they're saying that Eli's runs over, then so be it. Then let Eli go somewhere else if he wants to, or let him, do it. Then do something else. But the idea that they have someone here that's ready to replace him, I don't think that's the case in any way. And the Giants are not going to. They are not going to go in with the idea that we are not going to try and win games. If you look at the Giants historically in the seasons where they start off terribly, they finish strongly. Let's go look. The last 3 times they had 5 losses, they finished. The last 3 times they started 0-5, they finished with 6 or 7 wins. They don't have seasons where they win 1 or 2 games. Find the last time the Giants had a season like that. They don't have years like that. They don't want to be a ghost town in November and December. And if they are, when they have Washington and Dallas and Philly coming into their building in December, and one coming in on New Year's Eve, and they have a ghost town, and they have a scene there where they have nobody in the building, and the only people in the building are rooting for, the other team, because the other team's fighting for a playoff spot or a wild card spot, they will be mortified to the point that they will clean house. Those games in December, if you understand the Giant way, those games will have to have energy, will have to have direction, and will have to mean something. And if they don't, if there's no fight in the Giants at that point, they will clean house. But if there is fight in the Giants at that point, they will not. They will move forward with these guys. And I don't know, listen, I would say for sure they would move forward with the coach, and I would think there's a very good chance they would move forward with Reese. But that will be the case if this team is competing at that point, especially with the fact that their rivals will be coming in the building in those weeks. That makes all the difference in the world, that those are, big weeks, and it's weeks 14, 15, 16 they're at Arizona, and then they close week 17 on New Year's Eve against the Redskins. And if the Redskins are live for a wild card in those games, that will, and you have a bunch of Redskins fans in there, or pick the game, if they play the Cowboys on December 10th, they play the Cowboys on December 10th, and Dallas is still alive for a wild card, which they probably will be. And there's 35,000 Dallas fans and 10 Giant fans in the building. The Giants, that will be very ugly for the Giant hierarchy. And the next week, same thing for the Eagle fans. And if the Eagles are winning the division as they are now, and Wentz comes in and throws 4 touchdown passes, and the Giants get beat 28-6, you know what? This group will not withstand that. And then 2 weeks later, when Washington comes in, same thing. Dallas, Philly, and Washington are in Giant Stadium in December. That's who they finish up with. They have got to be spirited games that the Giants are playing the role of spoiler and playing it well. Otherwise, heads will roll. Kevin in New Jersey. What's up, Kevin?
Hey, Mike. Thanks for taking my call.
What's happening?
Appreciate it. Love the show. I'm really, really going to miss you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Really grateful for all your knowledge. I wanted to make 2 points, a Viking point and also World Series point, if you don't mind.
Good.
I'll make it quick. The Vikings last week beat the Ravens, and the Ravens last night beat the Dolphins, who just looked lifeless, in my opinion.
That's a tough turnaround with a backup quarterback. That was almost an impossible game for the Dolphins, in my mind, going in there. Number one, Baltimore was getting 2 receivers back, which was going to make a difference in their offense. Number 2, their defense can do some tricky things, and you only had 2 days with a backup quarterback to prepare, and you don't have a lot of weapons, and you had guys hurt on the offensive line. I thought that was a game where I thought going in that Miami would be lucky to be within 14 points of them in that game last night. Only for that reason, because they were banged up. They had a short work week with a backup quarterback. I thought that was an impossible spot. First of all, it's a very hard game for the road team to win any week. And if you do it with a backup quarterback or an inexperienced quarterback, it's a very short work week. To get a game plan in one day and travel is very hard to do. The home teams on Thursday has an enormous advantage.
To the Vikings point, I was saying that, this week we're in London against the Browns.
Yes.
The Browns are a pretty easy team. Keenum's played pretty well, and considering that they lost Dalvin Cook for the season, they're 5-2.
And they've done a very good, considering they haven't had the quarterback nor Dalvin Cook, they've done a very, very good job. And I think they've been bolstered by the fact that Rodgers isn't there. I think it really lifted them because they knew now that they can win this division, and they have a lot better chance to win the division because of that. So I think it helps. I think it helps immeasurably that was the case. I really think it makes it. Yeah, and I think that here's what I think about the game in London. If they jump on Cleveland early with their defense, they will bury them in that game. That's what I think. Cleveland has hung in games. You're right, but I think with the way Minnesota's built, if they jump out on them early, their defense will dictate the entire game and will wreak havoc on the Browns.
And the World Series point, I wanted to get your thoughts. Do you think Roberts had a very early hook for Hill? I
thought he completely ruined the game. I thought it made no sense. Absolutely no sense. Absolutely no sense. But why take a guy out who's throwing that well? I just thought it. And Hill was crazy in the dugout. If you saw him, he was crazy. I know they have a deeper pen, but why ask your guys in the pen to do things you don't want to do, and why create a game where you're going to use that many pitches? Because if you go in a game and you're going to ask 5 pitches to be good in the same game, it's too much to ask. You don't want to design a game. You might be in a game where you ask 5 pitches to pitch, but you don't want to design a game where you want 5 pitches to pitch. So in that game, why would you take your starter out as early as you did? I just didn't understand it. And then put your closer in a role where he has not been very often in, which is he has not been a 6-out guy as far as getting saves, and then ask him to get 6 outs. I thought it was a bad decision. I thought he did a bad job on the game all the way around. Now, Houston made that game a classic because they can't get anybody out. When they got the lead, they let the Dodgers right back in the game. And even in the second time when they hit the home runs, when Springer hit the home run, they still gave up a home run to a guy who doesn't even hit home runs. And to draw them within one run again. So, to me, Houston's bullpen has been awful. Giles and Davinsky have been terrible. So now I need to know if they think they can go anywhere else to get outs other than their starters. They had two guys, Harris and Musgrave, each threw a shutout inning in that game. Can he lean on them a little more, because Davinsky hasn't fooled anybody and Giles hasn't fooled anybody, and they're going to be in that pen tonight. They have to be, because McCullers can't give them more than 6 on a good day. He might give him 6 shutout. He's been great in the postseason, but he's not going far past 6 innings. He's been hurt. He doesn't have more than 6 innings in him. So that's why I got Stanton up, because he covers the Astros, and he'll tell me about what he thinks they can do to improvise in that bullpen, because that's going to be a big key tonight. And if you're the Dodgers, you got to find a way to break through in one of these next 2 games. Try to get 2-2, get Kershaw in the game in Game 5, and let him deliver you home. You don't want to have Kershaw save the season for you down 3-1. I mean, so if you're the Dodgers, you need to get a breakthrough. And tonight's is a good way to get it, because you know you're going to be in their pen fairly early. Now, same thing tomorrow with Morton, maybe a little less so, but the next 2 pitchers for the Astros are pretty much 5-inning starters, and that means a lot of pen, and it doesn't mean a lot of starters, which they've been covering their pen up in the past. It means going to the bullpen. Let's see where they go as far as that. Dodgers have a better pen. We'll see what they get out of Darvish tonight. But Houston's played very well at home, as they did against the Yankees. So if you're the Dodgers, you don't want to fool around here. You want to get a win as fast as you can to make sure. You need 1 to ensure that you go home. You'd like 2, but you need 1 if you want to get back to the L.A., you have to win a game here. So that's the position you're in right now. And Houston's going to try and see if they can close this out, which is not an easy task, especially when you look at what their bullpen's doing. They're going to have to score runs, because their bullpen has just been absolutely awful. Really has. Greg in East Talkit. What's up, Greg?
Nothing. How you doing, Mike?
Good,
question for you. What do you think about Al Padrique taking over for Girardi?
I haven't heard. I've had a couple of callers mention his name. I haven't seen his name mentioned anywhere else. I don't have no reason not to consider him a candidate. I don't know what the Yankees. I admit. Remember, the Yankees aren't talking right now. I haven't spoken to anybody about it. Only people we talked to were Girardi's people about getting him on, and he didn't want to do it yet. He will come on, but he doesn't know when he wants to talk yet. He's not ready to speak yet. Told us yesterday he wasn't going to speak yesterday or today. Yankees put out a statement they won't be speaking until the World Series is over. So you're not going to hear anything out of the Yankees, so anything you got is speculation. We mentioned the guys that have been talked about already. The cast of characters who fit that bill. I don't know if they have anybody else in there. We'll have to wait and see. So right now, I don't have a name for you. I wasn't surprised by Girardi. I've talked to you all season about that I thought there was a good chance to be a change this year. That was in the wind all year. So it didn't come as a shock. And the way Joe talked during the playoffs, he knew this was a very distinct possibility, just the way he talked about everything. So it shouldn't have come as that much of a surprise. I mean, there's always a little surprise because you don't know if they're going to end or not. But it's not stunning. And the Yanks will be fine. And I think Girardi will be fine. I don't know if Girardi wants to manage or not. If he does, I think Washington will be a perfect spot. Here's the Mink Man.